What is up, guys? So today I'm going to take you back to the early 90s, back to the rave scene. And I have done a video about this before and it got pretty well received, so I thought I would expand on it and talk about the first time I went to a rave. You know, I've got more confidence now and got a bigger audience, so yeah, let's get into it. So early 90s, 1992, 93, I can't remember exactly when. Was when I went to the first rave. Now my first rave was Doncaster Warehouse and it was brilliant. It was a really good night, you know, for such a small place. And the first time I went there, we went into town, we all met up and we all had like luminous colours on and hats, and some people had gloves on, some had whistles and we stood out a mile. But back then it was a lot safer, you know, you could wear what you want, you could, like now, you'd probably get robbed, but back then it was a way safer. I mean, I was on the phone to my mum yesterday and she says, "Oh, what are you up to?" I says, "I'm thinking about buying an electric bike," and she says, "Oh, you don't want to get robbed?" Like, how is that the first thing you think of? But that's the world we live in now. That's England for you. But yeah, back then it was a lot safer. You could wear what you want. And the first time I went to Doncaster Warehouse, we made his way over there. And a couple of lasses came up and they says, "Oh, you're going to the warehouse, aren't you?" I says, "Yep." And they like tagged along. They says, "We could tell with the way you were dressed." And the first time I went in there, it was a tenner to get in, because it used to be a tenner if it was just like local DJs, or if there was like a guest DJ like Carl Cox or Stu Allen or DJ Clarkey, it would be like a tenner and they'd just play a set. And if it was a live PA, like a live personal appearance, then they would bring out the keyboards and the microphone and there'd be a singer and they'd do a proper set, you know, like Rat Pack or Alternate, just like a band sort of thing. So yeah, it was tenner for a normal night and 15 if it was a live PA. And the first time we went in, me and my mate, I couldn't believe it. To start with, we walked in. Now the plan was buy a pill and have half each, but we couldn't, because there was like sphere shapes, so we couldn't break it in half. And I didn't know at the time what I know now, that we had one of the strongest pills ever made. It was a Snowball, way too strong for your first pill, but we didn't know that. But anyway, we've got his pills and we walked in and it was so surreal, because everybody was bouncing, there was people dancing on the rafters, people up the stairs stomping, you know, there was lasers going, smoke machines, and it was so surreal. I remember looking around thinking, wow, this is amazing. And I remember when we was walking there, we'd see these people getting drunk going into town, and we used to laugh at them, not in a bad way, but we'd be laughing like, man, they're going to town, they're getting drunk and falling over, and we're going to this awesome world, this rave world where everybody's loved up. And yeah, the first time we went, we got his pills, Snowballs, and we went and sat in the cafe whilst we had his pills. And like I said, we was going to have half each, but because there was sphere shaped, we couldn't, so we had one each, and it was a Snowball. It was really strong. And I remember sat in the cafe, we both had a cup of tea or coffee, I don't know why, and the music's pumping in the background and it started coming up, and I was like, oh my god, I mean, this is strong. And I started getting a little bit worried. So what I did was I like jumped up and I went to the toilet, and I got in the toilet and I locked the door and I just like started gathering myself, you know, like, right, you're all right, your name's Paddy, you're at a rave, everybody's buzzing, you know, you've had a pill, you're alright, you're going to be fine. And as I came out of the toilet, I was in full-blown buzzing. And it was awesome. It was like I was walking on air. And I came out of the toilet and it was like everyone, it was amazing. Because back then, pills were like 15 quid each, and it wasn't like caffeine and ketamine, it was pure ecstasy. And I was coming out and it was like I was walking like a puppet on a string, like a spaceman. And I'm walking out. And as I came out, I looked round, and like I've said this before, it was like all the stars aligned. It's happened a few times when I've been having pills. And as I looked up, the MC came on the mic, and it all like went dark, and the lasers started flashing, and the MC, I think it was Nats, I can't really remember. He says, well, next DJ for the night, DJ M-Zone. And it was like, and I was walking around like a spaceman, fucking off my head, and the music was like, and it started going, doo, 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 and everybody's bouncing, and I swear to God, I'm getting goosebumps now. It was like, it was surreal. It was absolutely amazing. It's like everything was mine just for that. While I was coming up, and everyone were bouncing, and I must have been on the dance floor for like 3 hours. It was like that. And it was time, you know what I mean? It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was amazing. And I remembered, like, as it's like, you know, closing down because it's time to go out, I remembered, like, fucking hell, where's my mate? I forgot all about him. And I went upstairs, and he was in the, where you put your coat. He'd gone in there. He'd gone in there off his head, and he was just flaked out in there all night, just talking to this woman that takes your coat. And that was the first night I went, and oh man, it was absolutely, probably the best night of my life. It was brilliant. And we used to go to the warehouse like every week for ages. I didn't miss it for probably over a year. And we used to go to Destruction as well. We used to go to Uprising, to the Hacienda. And I remember, like, one of my favourite live PAs was it was like all the stars aligned and all just for me. There was a group called Dream Frequency, and there was bringing out the pianos and the keyboards and putting them on stage. So I'm like, okay, they're going to be on in a minute, so I've gone and got a pill, dropped this pill, and I knew I'd be coming up just as they came on. And I'll never forget it, man. It was the MC came on, and he says, oh, now we're gonna do something a little bit spooky. And it was like, wow. And then the pianos kicked in, and the woman singing, let me take you free. And, oh man, I fucking goosebumps again. And it was awesome. They were the best live PA I've ever seen. Dream Frequency. I don't know what happened to them, but it was amazing. And that's the thing about the rave scene. Everybody was best mates just for that one night. All the DJs, and pills like just made it a million times worse because it broke down all the barriers. You know, like now I suffer with anxiety and I struggle just to talk to people. Back then, that's what pills did. They broke down all these barriers, so everybody could be themselves. There was never no trouble. There was never no one ripping anyone off. You know, it was beautiful. And this is why when people ask me about Sean Atwood, they say, what do you think about him? Do you think he's telling the truth? And I can say, like, if I'd have been smart enough back then, I could have done what he did. You know, anyone could if they'd have had the brains to do it. That's why I always say I think he's telling the truth, because, I mean, I could shift 100 pills in an hour easily without even trying. So I imagine if I'd have, like, committed myself, I could have done exactly what he did, you know, and built an empire. But anyway, yeah, the Donny Warehouse was brilliant, man. People used to come from like Manchester and Liverpool, and everybody used to speak highly of the Donny Warehouse. And what made it was there was great people, and the DJs and the MCs, they kind of like knew the audience, you know, the resident DJs, they knew the audience. And M-Zone just used to play banger after banger. It was like, feel the panic, got to have it, and then there'd be another banger, like bow, 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 bow. And MC Nats would be on stage like 5, 6, 7, kick it, and it was just absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and that was the resident DJs, and then you'd get like Carl Cox, DJ Clarkey, someone like that. And they'd play like different kind of set, but it was all bouncy, it was all techno, and it was just a brilliant night. Donny Warehouse was probably one of the best, well, it was the best rave that I've been to, and it was my local. And I know when I was in prison, I used to stick my ear to the window and I could hear the music. I was like, oh man, I wish I was there. But it was such an awesome time, and And yeah, that's my experience. The first time I went, it was like all the stars aligned. I remember Rat Pack as well. They were really good. They did "We was standing in the corner searching for my Rizzler. We had some marijuana." They were really good as well. I think it's still going now, but you could never capture that what it was back then. I mean, it was brilliant. Everybody was just best mate. Even like bullies, people like Brian Cockrell or Lee Duffy, even they speak highly of the rave scene, saying, you know, that they've had pills and they had an awesome night. And I would never like encourage drug use, but back then, man, it was a different time. You know, pills were actually pills. They weren't just made up of caffeine and ketamine. There was like taking a love potion, and it was just brilliant, just a brilliant time. So anyway, let me know in the comments if you've ever been to a rave. What was your local rave? I remember we went to Sheffield a couple times, to Nelson Mandela Building, it was like a drum and bass club, but for me, the Warehouse, Destruction was good. It wasn't that big, but it weren't as good as the Warehouse. And Uprising was alright, but the one for me was the Donny Warehouse. It was just fucking amazing. And I struggle thinking back to that time now, because I know it's gone and I could never have it back. You know what I mean? And it so when I see the videos on YouTube, I put myself back there and it's just like, oh man, those days are gone. Can never have them back. But anyway, get in the comment section, let me know what your local rave is. That's the video for today. Subscribe to the channel. Bonjour.